You can't call a girl superficial if you're chasing her for primarily or completely superficial reasons yourself. It seems like common sense, and it's so obvious, you don't want to be a hypocrite. And yet, here I am on the internet, and I'm seeing hundreds of thousands of comments that pretty much imply just this. You see all these gold digger prank videos where the guy uses a Lamborghini or a fancy car or pretends to be rich to get a girl or pick her up. And you see all these stingy, frustrated guys. Oh, gold digger. And yet, again, here's another video that just illustrates the opposite point. You see this girl try and approach a guy, ask him out on a date. He says no. Then she gets her makeup done, all this stuff, and now she looks like a supermodel, kind of. Well, not really, but it's called the supermodel prank video. And now he's all interested. And before he was like, "Oh, I, I have to see my mom in the hospital. She's diseased." And after she approaches this guy. He's like, "I'm free right now. Let's go on a date. I'm completely free." So it is one of those strange things, and it really makes me think. So I thought about it a lot, and I realized that, well, okay, you gotta be completely honest with yourself. Like, what is it that you want? And again, if you're chasing someone for very superficial reasons, physical attractiveness and so forth, then again, you can't be too mad or whatever if they are going after someone else for seemingly superficial reasons. Status, money, power. And having said that, you kind of have to understand that just because they are, it is not always the entire reason. You can't assume that that's all that they're interested in this guy, or they don't connect on other levels, or they don't have common interests, or they can talk and so forth. Now, I do think on both parties, some people, girls and guys, not all of them, they have, I guess you can call it compromises, and they allow a lot of other things to slide if certain superficial traits are met. And again, it's not a horrendously bad thing. There's a thought experiment I'm going to do a whole nother video on, which just illustrates the point that we all wouldn't mind someone who's attractive, I mean, rather than completely ugly or just very physically unappealing. It would be nice to be able to have that. So, you know, a bit of superficiality, I think, is necessary in all of us. Um, and so, having said all that, here's a great example of how it's not everything. It may be to some girls, which is just, those are the girls that you may not want to hang around. They're basically willing to take a lot of other crap. This guy being horrendously ugly, an arrogant person, very horrible, no dress sense, all sorts of stuff. And so the example is that there are people out there who are wealthy. They may have power and status, and I've heard of them, and I know some of them, and they have money, lots of it, and they have a high status position, but they are not able to get girls without using that money, either through paying these girls or by showing off their money or status. And so for these people, what's the problem here? Well, it's oftentimes because a lot of other things are not cultivated, and therefore they're still struggling in terms of getting someone without using those things. And it just goes to show you that, it's not always the end all be all. Just because you have money, a lot of other things are a factor in it. Like, for instance, if you're excessively overweight, or if you're not that attractive, or you're uninteresting, or you are a horrendous person, you're arrogant, your finances and your house is a mess, you don't take care of yourself, you have no grooming sense. I could go on and on about a bunch of other things that may matter for a girl. And so, again, I do think that from my observations, a man who can cover all his bases and just be slightly above average on a lot of bases can do a lot better than someone who's just up and down in a lot of areas. So a man who's slightly above average in attractiveness, it has makes slightly above average income, is a I can go on and on. Slightly above average in grooming, style, fashion. Slightly above average in terms of confidence and how interesting he is, and is pretty solid in a lot of categories. He can do a lot better, oftentimes, than a guy who's just like, you know, complete mess, creeper, looks creepy, weird, no fashion sense, but is really rich. No social skills.